And here we have another military aircraft model, and I can already hear you say, but Bongo, you know nothing about military aircraft, and you know what, you're not wrong. And this is why I have teamed up with...
I'm Tim, I'm a plane spotter from Germany, and maybe you know me from my channels Timfly Spotting or Galaxy Spotter.
So with his brilliant help, I'm sure nothing can go wrong, and thanks to the great prices of the FMB shop, I'm able to show you this aircraft model. So let's get cracking. And with that, hello and welcome to a new episode of Review, where we today will take a closer look at an Airbus A330 MRTT of the Armée de l'Air, or in plain English, the French Air Force. At the front of the box we have a cutout, so we can get a glimpse of the aircraft model inside, and on top of the box we have the logo of the French Air Force and a crest. The backside of the box, unfortunately, yet another Herpa disaster, so let's just gloss over that and skip right ahead to the aircraft model. And here she is, the very first Airbus A330 MRTT in scale 500 from Herpa Wings, in the livery of the French Air Force. But what is actually a MRTT?
So yeah, what is a MRTT? MRTT stands for Multi-Role Tanker Transport. And that means this plane is not only able to refuel airplanes in mid-air, it's also a transporter for passengers or freight.
Alright, so now that we have established that, let's take a closer look at the actual aircraft model to see what Herpa has managed to come up with. And as always, we start our tour around the aircraft model with a look at the tail section. Here we find on the vertical stabilizer the aircraft type specification, and on top of the stabilizer 3 digits, which is an internal registration code. We do also find this crest, which I'm pretty sure is basically the name of the aircraft. It's called Bretagne or Brittany in English. We do also have these black and yellow lines here on the stabilizer and many other places on the aircraft model, and if I've learned anything from my previous review of AC-17, then these should basically be markers so that the aircraft can still be seen during refueling if they have switched off all the positioning lights. On the fuselage we then again find these black and yellow stripes, we have the roundel and the full registration code of the aircraft. Towards the very tail of the aircraft we then also have a bit of detailing around the APU exhaust, and then this rather peculiar looking thing.
What you can see here is the refueling boom system. With this part, it's possible to refuel other military planes in mid-air with a hole in the fuselage, like the C-17 or the C-5. And I think Herpa does a really good job with this part of the aircraft.
And yes, also quite impressive how they managed to get some prints onto these small wings. Then if we move to the front of the aircraft we can find quite a few more details. For example, across the fuselage it does say Armée de l'Air, so French Air Force. But we of course also have quite a few markings, like static ports. We can find the black and yellow stripes. Underneath the front cabin door we then also have the writing of 31 EARTS, which stands for 31st Air Refueling Wing and Strategic Transport, but in French. And then on top of the fuselage, very nicely incorporated, we have a set dome, but correct me if I'm wrong, but a set dome on a military aircraft doesn't seem to be the most common thing, or is it?
There are actually some military Herpa models which have a set dome. For example, the A321 Neo of the Luftwaffe, or Air Force One, and also a C-17 of the Royal Australian Air Force in the 100 years livery. So you can say it's quite a normal thing.
Alright, that's good to know. And then if we take a quick look at the cockpit section, we can find here the cockpit windows and the window wipers, but that's then all the detail we get here. What Herpa, however, does very nicely with the cockpit section of the A330 is simply the shape of the mold here, which as always is excellent. The engine nacelles have been kept in the same matte grey color as most of the fuselage, but do have the silver leading edge and the safety relevant markings printed on. And also the physical detailing of these engines is actually quite lovely in my opinion, especially here from the back, but also from the front, where we very nicely can see the engine fan blades. And if we move on from the engines to the wings, we can take a closer look at them as well, starting off with the top side, where we on both sides have the roundel printed on. We of course also have the flaps, slats and spoilers carved out very nicely. The underside, however, is the more interesting part of the wings. Here again, on both sides, we have the roundel printed on, and then we find these devices that, well, in my opinion, kind of look like a bomb, but I'm pretty sure they aren't.
What you can see here is actually a second refueling system, but this time for other types of aircraft. In this part of the aircraft is a flexible tube with a sinkhole at the end, because there are also some aircraft in the military which don't have this hole in the fuselage, but they have a other part. You can say it's something like a stick, and with this stick the pilots can fly into this sinkhole and then the refueling in midair can start. And one of the many military aircraft which have this stick is, for example, the A330M. And also here I think Herpa did a nice job.
Indeed, and especially considering that Herpa also managed to add some printing to this physical detail. And then, of course, we should also not forget to mention that the wings, of course, also have winglets. The landing gear on the aircraft model, well, that is the standard landing gear that Herpa uses for all their Airbus A330 family aircraft models. A nice thing for the main landing gear, which I think looks very decent. Also, the front landing gear looks alright. Interesting here, of course, is that the freighter version of the A330 needs a reinforced front landing gear, while the MRTT doesn't. But unfortunately, this cannot cover up the missing printed details. And then last but not least, we do also have the doors to the cargo compartments printed on here at the back of the aircraft, and here at the front of the aircraft. So there we have it, the Airbus A330 MRTT of the French Air Force in scale 1 to 500 by Herpa Wings. And what can we say about this aircraft model? Well, despite or possibly because I know very little about military aircraft, I tend to like the military aircraft models coming from Herpa Wings because I think they tend to have more printed details than the civilian aircraft models we get from Herpa Wings. But what do you think, Tim?
All in all, I can say I like this model. And that's not only because I'm a huge military aircraft fan, I also think Herpa did a nice job with the details. So yeah, I like it.
Very good. Once again, I think Herpa has done an excellent job when it comes to the physical detailings and just the mold in general of the A330, and the print quality overall is also really nice. So given that I rather rarely do buy military aircraft models, but I really wanted that one, I mean, I kind of made the decision for myself that this is worth having in one's collection. But what do you think, Tim? Do you think this is a model for other collectors as well? I mean, especially considering the very hefty price tag from Herpa Wings of €43 for this model.
Yes, that's a good model with good details, so it's worth having in one's collection.
Thank you so much for that, Tim. And of course, everybody should check out his channels, both Tim Fly Spotting and Galaxy Spotter. Tim Fly Spotting for all those German speakers and those who love airport update content, and Galaxy Spotter is an amazing channel when you like plane spotting. And with that, we have reached the end of today's episode. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to smash the like button. And of course, if you are new around here, you're always welcome to hit subscribe. With that, thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.